What if the secret to true success isn't in what you say, but in what you do? Imagine a world where silence holds more power than words, where your quiet effort speaks louder than any boastful declaration. This is the story of Ethan, a young man who believed that success wasn't about shouting your dreams to the world, but quietly making them a reality. Stay with us to discover how Ethan's silence became his greatest strength. Ethan was a quiet soul, a young man of few words but many thoughts. He preferred to observe the world around him rather than be the center of attention. His passion for success burned deeply inside him, but it was hidden from view. While others loudly declared their dreams, Ethan worked quietly on his goals, letting his actions speak louder than words. From a young age, Ethan had learned that words often meant little. People spoke about their dreams only to see them fade into nothing. His friends and family would chatter about their plans, but rarely did the work to bring them to life. Ethan didn't want to share his dreams prematurely, knowing that speaking too soon often led to disappointment or judgment. He had always been the quiet one. His friends joked about how little he spoke, never boasting about his accomplishments or future plans. They found it strange that he didn't join in on discussions about big plans or what's next. It wasn't that Ethan lacked dreams. His dreams were big, bigger than most of his peers could imagine. But he kept them to himself, tucked away where no one could dismiss or mock them. For Ethan, success was about doing, not talking. His family often wondered why he didn't share his goals. "Why don't you tell us what you're working on?" they would ask. His friends teased, "Come on, man, you've got to let us in on the secret." But Ethan never felt the need to share. He preferred focusing on the work that would bring his dreams to life rather than wasting time discussing them. It wasn't that Ethan was afraid to share his ideas. He simply believed that too much talk would take away from the work required. He wasn't interested in the applause or praise that came from speaking about his goals. He wanted the satisfaction of seeing them unfold quietly. His actions, he believed, would eventually speak louder than words. Despite his silence, Ethan was driven. His passion for success burned bright inside him, even if no one saw it. He would spend hours honing his skills, working on projects that would make a difference. He didn't need validation from others. The work itself fueled his ambition. The quiet determination was where he found peace. But as the months passed, Ethan began to notice his friends and family were puzzled by his quiet nature. They saw his work but couldn't understand why he wasn't sharing his progress. They would ask about his dreams, and all he offered was a humble smile. They seemed concerned, as if they thought something was wrong with him. "Why aren't you more open about your dreams?" they asked. Ethan, however, remained unfazed. To him, silence wasn't insecurity, it was strength. He didn't need to justify his passion. He just needed to keep working, one step at a time, knowing success would speak for itself when the time was right. And so he continued his quiet path, working towards a future he knew was meant for him, with his dreams closely guarded, allowing his actions to do the talking. As the weeks passed, Ethan began to feel a growing sense of discomfort. The more he listened to the constant chatter around him, the more he realized how much energy was being wasted in words. People talked endlessly about their plans and dreams, but few seemed to make any real progress toward them. The world was full of talk but little action. Ethan, who had always believed in the power of silence, was now feeling distracted by it. Every time he mentioned his ambitions, even briefly, he felt his energy slip away. It wasn't that the conversations were bad, but he realized that speaking about his dreams gave him a fleeting sense of accomplishment, without the work required to actually achieve them. Talking could trick the mind into thinking the dream had already been achieved, draining the motivation to follow through. He noticed that while people spoke about their dreams, they rarely discussed the effort and struggles needed to make them a reality. One day, while sitting in the park, Ethan was interrupted by an older man Mr. Hale, who had been walking by. Noticing Ethan's deep thoughts, Mr. Hale sat beside him. A seasoned mentor to many in the community, Mr. Hale smiled calmly and said, "You're thinking too much about the noise around you, son." Ethan looked up, startled, and asked, "What do you mean?" Mr. Hale nodded thoughtfully. "The world loves to talk, loves to share plans, but how many of them actually follow through? True strength is built in the quiet moments, the ones when no one's watching, when no one's listening. It's not about boasting about your dreams, but quietly crafting your success one small action at a time." Ethan sat in silence, reflecting on Mr. Hale's words. He had always known this, but hearing it from someone with such experience made it feel more real. Mr. Hale spoke not just from theory, but from a lifetime of wisdom. Ethan had avoided boasting about his dreams, but he hadn't fully considered the impact of even casually sharing them. "Work in silence," Mr. Hale continued, his voice softening. "Let your actions speak. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your work will do that for you. And as you master your craft, you'll find the noise around you matters less and less." Ethan felt a shift within himself. He realized he had been giving away too much energy in conversations and sharing his goals, and in the excitement of telling others what he was going to do. Talking about it had distracted him from the real work. The longer he spoke, the less likely he was to achieve his goals. From that moment, Ethan decided to dedicate himself fully to his work. He focused all his energy on mastering his skills, improving every day without seeking applause or recognition. The more he worked in silence, the more he realized that success wasn't about gaining others' belief, it was about believing in himself and letting his actions speak. Ethan distanced himself from idle chatter and spent hours perfecting his craft. He found that the less he spoke about his ambitions, the more progress he made. The more focused he was on action, the less he felt the need to explain himself. Slowly, small victories came, and with each one, his confidence grew. Fueled by his commitment, Ethan's quiet strength led him toward his goals. Ethan's journey was not without challenges. As he quietly worked to perfect his craft, life tested his resolve. The effort was overwhelming at times. While he made steady progress, the goal always seemed distant. One of his biggest struggles was financial pressure. The money he had saved was running low, and he had to cut back on essentials to keep working on his passion. Late nights meant less time for extra income, and the fear of running out of resources began to grow. He often stared at his bills, wondering how long he could keep going, but he refused to let this distract him from his work. Ethan kept these worries to himself, especially from his friends, who seemed to have more stable, secure lives. He believed that if he stayed focused and kept working, the obstacles would eventually fade. But late at night, doubts crept in. What if his dreams remained just that? Dreams forever out of reach. At times, self-doubt gnawed at him. He had seen others succeed faster, people who were more vocal about their plans. They gained attention and praise, while Ethan wondered if his quiet approach was holding him back. Was staying silent preventing him from showcasing his talents? One particularly difficult day, Ethan checked social media and saw friends celebrating their achievements. The comparison hit him hard. It felt like everyone else was moving forward while he stood still, toiling in silence. The knot in his stomach grew and loneliness crept in. He questioned whether his quiet persistence was a mistake. Was he wasting his time? But then, he remembered Mr. Hale's words. True strength is built in quiet moments. The phrase echoed in his mind, reminding him of his purpose. The world was full of distractions, but Ethan realized success wasn't about comparing himself to others or seeking validation. It was about doing the work and letting time reveal the results. The quiet, solitary hours spent improving his craft were where his strength was forged. Ethan took a deep breath and renewed his commitment. The financial struggles, self-doubt, and loneliness were part of the journey. They came with pursuing something meaningful. He had already come so far, and he wouldn't let setbacks derail him. He wouldn't let the impatience of the world convince him he wasn't on the right path. With renewed determination, Ethan returned to his work. He focused on small, incremental improvements, not worrying about how long it would take or how far others had come. He knew the only race he was running was with himself, so he continued quietly but steadily, doing the work that would one day speak for him. The struggles were part of the process. He would persevere because true strength wasn't in speed. It was in the quiet persistence to keep going. Months of quiet effort began to pay off in ways Ethan hadn't imagined. At first, the victories were small, subtle wins only he noticed. A project completed ahead of schedule, a skill mastered after hours of practice, a breakthrough idea years in the making. These small steps didn't make a big splash, but for Ethan they were monumental. He knew these quiet victories were the foundation for something bigger, even if the world wasn't aware of the work behind the scenes. As the days passed, Ethan's reputation grew, not from boastful proclamations, but from the results he was producing. His work spoke for itself. Clients began seeking him out, impressed by his consistent excellence and innovative approach. They marveled at his ability to solve problems quickly and effectively, but no one knew the countless hours, sacrifices, or quiet perseverance behind these results. Ethan wasn't keeping his successes secret. He simply didn't need to shout about them. His actions were the loudest message. It didn't take long for his friends and family to notice the change. They had questioned his silence, puzzled by his reluctance to talk about his dreams. But now something was different. He wasn't talking more, he was doing more. People began to see it. One evening, his parents invited him to dinner, eager to catch up. They had noticed the subtle signs of success: a few well-dressed clients, a new project, and the newfound confidence radiating from him. They asked, "Ethan, we're so proud of you, but we never really understood what you were doing. How did you manage to achieve so much?" Ethan paused and smiled. He hadn't made big announcements, yet here they were, noticing his success. Instead of boasting, he simply said, "Success speaks for itself." His parents exchanged glances, a mix of awe and understanding. It wasn't just that Ethan succeeded, it was how he did it. He had focused, worked, and let the results reveal the truth. No words were necessary. What had once seemed like a disadvantage, the quiet determination, was now his greatest strength. Ethan's friends noticed the shift too. They started asking for advice, curious about how he had gone from being quiet to making waves in his field. But Ethan didn't offer the typical answers. He simply said, "Focus on the work. Let your actions speak. Let your success do the talking." The more Ethan shared, the more he realized how powerful his approach had been. It wasn't the loud declarations that led to success. It was the quiet commitment, steady focus, and relentless pursuit of excellence. He understood that progress came not from seeking validation, but from staying true to his values and trusting that the results would speak for themselves. And they did. Ethan built something real, something sustainable. His reputation was based on tangible results. People respected him not because he boasted, but because they saw the fruits of his labor. His success had become a quiet force, a testament to persistence and dedication. As time went on, Ethan's quiet victories compounded into something larger. His name became known not because he shouted about his accomplishments, but because the world saw the power of his work. The quiet victory was, in the end, the loudest success of all. As the years passed, Ethan's success grew beyond what he had imagined. His name became synonymous with integrity, dedication, and skill. He was no longer the quiet dreamer working in the shadows. Ethan had become a leader in his field, an entrepreneur who built his reputation on the strength of his actions. He had achieved everything he set out to do, all without boasting or empty promises. However, success for Ethan wasn't just measured in wealth or recognition. It was in the impact he had on those around him. He realized the greatest gift he could offer wasn't just his expertise, but the wisdom he gained through his journey. He understood the power of quiet work, of focusing on action rather than words, and wanted to pass that knowledge on. Soon, young professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs sought him out, eager to learn how he had reached the heights he had without broadcasting every move. They expected quick fixes, but Ethan knew better than to offer shortcuts. Instead, he mentored them, teaching the principles that had guided his own path. He emphasized the importance of working in silence and letting action speak louder than words. He reminded them that success wasn't about making noise, but about staying focused, putting in the work, and letting the results speak for themselves. It wasn't an easy lesson to learn. Many of his mentees were impatient, eager for immediate validation and recognition. But Ethan, with his calm wisdom, helped them understand that true success took time and that their work would eventually speak for itself. Ethan's mentorship wasn't about giving a step-by-step guide to success, but teaching others to find their own path and build quiet strength. He encouraged his mentees to embrace discomfort, trust the process, and believe their efforts would lead to the results they desired. While the world was full of distractions, he knew true greatness came from quiet dedication, from the hours spent working when no one was watching. As Ethan continued to mentor others, he realized his legacy wasn't just about the business he built or the success he achieved, but about the lives he touched and the lessons he shared. His success had created a ripple effect, inspiring others to follow his example and work in silence. Reflecting on his journey, Ethan felt content. He had stayed true to his beliefs, built something lasting, and proven that quiet effort combined with persistence was the ultimate strength. His legacy was one of quiet determination and the unwavering belief that success didn't need to be announced. It would speak for itself. Now, as a successful entrepreneur, Ethan continued to work in silence, content with the journey he had taken and the legacy he was building. He knew the greatest success wasn't recognition, but knowing he had stayed true to himself and inspired others to do the same. The strength of his actions would echo long after the noise faded, and that, to Ethan, was the truest form of success.